Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad?
Busy.
That's
like a standard answer for me.
Yes.
Right?
You're probably like the busiest guy I know, to be totally honest. I don't know how you do it, dude, to be real honest.
What, two full-time jobs and a side hustle will do it to you.
Well, and I mean, when you look at all of the stuff that comes out, every single paper, and then you're the one that's responsible to make sure that it gets done, is just, to me, seems just absolutely overwhelming. And I could not even imagine the amount of time that it takes to prep for that, because I know what it takes to prep for this. And you got it, I don't know how many times.
Well, it's not as bad as it used to be, because at one time I was also having to do the McPherson Sentinel and the Butler County Times-Gazette, and then they tried to throw the Wellington, at the time they called it the Wellington Daily News. I think they've dropped that daily tag now. And so I was upwards around 8 print editions a week all by myself, and that, the only help that I had in that time period, the only help that I had was Charles, otherwise known as Mark Schnabel, and Charles Cheney. If I hadn't had the Charleses taking care, locking down those sports beats and doing that, oh my gosh.
Well, and I want to talk to you.
That would have killed me.
That's okay, and I got to say this. Everybody knows that the Harvey County Sports Connection is part of Harvey County Talk, and it's just an audio form. But you know where we get all of our information, right?
Well, you probably get it from Mark.
There you go.
I mean, if there's a ball bouncing, he's there.
Oh, I got to say, I have to send a shout out to you, Mark, man, because to be honest, we're just really blessed that you do what you do, and you do it better than anybody in the community. I think, I mean, pretty much flying solo. That means here, there, everywhere. And then not only that, but then that gives us the ability to just kind of take that and be able to just show some love to the Kansans, show some love to you, and then put it in an audio form so people can listen to it if that's how they want to consume it.
Yeah, and I had a very real conversation several years ago, just to give you an idea what kind of dude Mark is. My phone rings, it's middle of the evening, and I see that it's Mark calling me. I'm like, what in the world? That's not normal. And so, I pick it up. I'm like, what's going on, Mark? I mean, I'm concerned, and I'm glad I was concerned. It was legitimate. Mark's like, Chad, I think I'm having a heart attack. I've put the camera equipment in the trunk of my car. I'm going to put the keys. He told me where he's putting the keys to the car. Right. And I'm like, Mark, have you called 911? Oh, I'm going to do that next.
Called you first.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. That's called a diehard employee, people.
Right. Yeah, well, and it's the next words out of his mouth. He's like, I hate to ask, but can you cover the second game of this doubleheader so that we've got stuff? I'm like, Mark, dude, go take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the kind of dude Mark is. And the thing that happened like about 24 hours later is I was back out at the Ball Diamond, okay? Because there's 2 people, Mark and me.
Yeah.
And so I'm back out at the Ball Diamond, and somebody was like, dude, you really screwed up all the stats on that second game. And I looked at him and I was going, really? No, I don't think I did. And we were talking baseball. I keep my own books in baseball, and I've done it for years. At one time, I was a certified scorer. I could have worked straight up. I could have worked Major League Baseball if I'd have wanted to, because I had the certifications.
Yeah.
And so this guy's, taking issue with all of that. And finally, I just looked at him and I said, you could just be grateful we're here.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Mark does great work. And I'm like, yeah, but on the phone last week, you were moaning and groaning about him.
Yeah. And the guy's having a heart attack.
Yeah, show the dude some love. You haven't even asked why I worked at the second game. You haven't even asked what the heck was going on with Mark. You were here, and he was here for game 1. You watched him walk out to his car and make a phone call, and then you watched someone else come pick him up.
Yeah.
And it was a freaking ambulance. And here you are, you're complaining about the stats, and 2 days ago, you were complaining about Mark to me.
No way.
Sorry, guys.
No way.
Mark has been amazing, and he has put every athlete to compete in this county above himself and above all else. for the better part of 40 years.
Well, and thinking about this, we don't really have any adult professional stuff, okay, or anything like that. So when you think about who's he serving, Chad?
Well, you make an interesting point there, and one of the things that I have said for decades, in markets the size of Newton and smaller, the game is more than a game.
Yeah.
Newton at 20,000 is kind of on that border. I call it a borderline for this. But in a lot of these smaller communities, that game, and I don't care what sport we're talking about, that high school sport, doesn't matter. And, it's going to extend into the high school play, the choir concert, that thing. That might be the biggest social event of the week.
Well, it is. We love our kids in this community. We want to praise our children when they're doing well.
And so, therein lies the importance of what Mark does.
Yeah.
And the importance of me showing up at the Meridian Center yesterday for the youth entrepreneurship contest.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Those things they're more than just a bunch of kids getting together.
Yeah.
It really is. This afternoon is huge.
Yeah.
They're going to do a ribbon cutting over at
Lindley Hall, baby.
Thank you. and they're going to celebrate all the work that was done on the Santa Fe campus.
Yeah.
That is huge, and that is more than just a ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be brutally honest. I hate ribbon cutting pictures. I hate them.
They never turn out good.
They don't turn out good. I really don't think people look at them. Okay.
Well, I do. I watch it on Facebook.
I just hate them. But once in a while, one of those things comes up that's a much bigger deal than somebody snipping that ribbon and saying we're open.
Yeah.
Right. And this would be one of those. So,
yeah.
But anyway.
Well, and speaking of Mark, and just showing some love, I got to say it again. Thank you, Mark. I don't know if you watch the program. Surely you do, because Chad's on it. but I will say this: if we can't show you enough love, man, we really cannot show you enough love. Craig Nye, who does the Harvey County Sports Connection, to be totally honest, we could not do it without you. We could not do it without the Kansan. You make us better, and we would not be here if it wasn't for you. And I've got to say that. And speaking of the Kansan, I know last week that I put a blip out about, subscribe to the Kansan. That's the truth, okay? I have to say it again. I'm going to say it again. If you're looking for a credible, reliable, trustworthy news source, the Kansan is it. And it's very interesting. Well, there was a article that was posted about the train station that was going up for sale. I saw that and I thought, oh my word, that's an amazing thing. I see the good in that. I see why they're putting it up for sale. I'm sure if, as a business person, they're putting it up for sale now because they see a lot of things moving and shaking around here. So if you're looking at a good return on your investment, now's the time. Now's the time. Yes. Because people are coming in, they're looking for space, they're looking for a place to be, businesses are trickling in here, and well, if you got something landlocked, then it's going to be difficult for somebody to come in, right? So I'm seeing how this is a wonderful thing for economic development. And anywho,
yes.
So I posted it. It went out, and it got a lot of traction. I don't know if the Kansan website just went, it probably almost crashed. But I looked at all of these people that were commenting, and I would say the mass majority were very good. The ones that were commenting that were negative, I think were just not as informed as they probably should have been. Somebody made this nasty comment about, well, why are you allowing this to be posted on here because it's got a paywall? And it's like, okay, look, I don't think people realize this, okay? But for like $5 a month, you can subscribe to the Kansan and you get 12 papers.
So you referenced the paywall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the things that is happened, quite honestly, I evaluate every story as to whether or not it should be behind the paywall. Okay?
Yeah.
I do. And sometimes, and those sometimes are kind of rare, that I'll go back and change that to free at some point. This story may be one of those that I do that for, but here's the bottom line. Stan Broadhagen stopped in my office again yesterday.
Nice.
Okay. And he had this, and if you know Stan, you know the SEG, and he had the SEG, and he was like, dude, we got people talking. I'm like, well, that's exactly what you said you wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for those who have read the entire story, whether that be because you've gotten through the paywall or because you received it in print this morning in your mailbox, he said what he needs this community to do, which was to talk about the train station.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you accomplished your job, man. And he confided in me. He's already shown the building.
Yeah.
He's actually already had buyers walking through it.
Yeah.
In 2 days.
Wow.
All right. That's a combination of two things. Number one, Stan don't mess around.
Yeah.
He never has. And number two, he went walking down Main Street and he's like, hey, I wonder if Chad's in. Okay. So even though that story was behind a paywall and you, quote, can't read it.
Yeah.
No, that's a misnomer. You can. You're choosing not to.
Yeah.
You're not placing a high enough value on it to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah. $5. $5, people. 12 papers. That's one article out of one of 12 papers. I mean, come on.
And when he has a building, you know, routinely he'll walk Main Street and he'll drop off flyers, right? And our office is one of the places that he drops off flyers.
Yeah.
And he walked in and he said, I've got a flyer for a building. Can I leave it? And our front office staff said, sure. What building you selling? He said, the train station. I stood right up, walked out front, and I said, Stan, you can't walk in here and say that without talking to me. Okay? I mean, seriously.
Yes.
That's how that whole thing goes down.
Yeah.
But, you know, all of that, here's the deal with the paywall. We're a business. We got to pay for stuff.
There you go.
My kids have to eat. There
you go.
And I have only gone to war, so to speak, about the paywall one other time, and it was during the shootings in Heston. Okay, and unlike a lot of the rest of the world, I've moved on from naming the business that it occurred at because it could have occurred anywhere. Yeah. But it was during that time there was someone who got really angry that a number of our stories were behind the paywalls. Okay. Well, at that time, we had a metered paywall. Okay. Honestly, I wish we had a metered paywall now, but we don't. That's why I sit down and I evaluate every story and say, this one we'll give away for free. This one we're not. Yeah. The reason that it's so important to note that at that time we had a metered paywall is we had this person that was complaining that they were not able to read the stories on our website. Again, and again, that is not the case. It's not that you can't read them. It is that you're choosing not to. You have not assigned a value to that. Yeah. And my response to that person in a direct message was, you can stop complaining about that now. The reason you're being told you have to pay is you've already read 10 stories over the course of the last 3 days. Okay? We have established that there is a value and you want to be here. Now I'm asking you to pay a little bit to do so. As a business. Okay? Yeah. And I will say this, and I have never spoken to my competition down the street about their paywall. Never. But I'm pretty sure that their paywalls are up for the same reasons that ours are. And here it is. Don't get caught up in the delivery system. Yeah. Okay? You don't get a discount, nor do you get it for free when you go through the drive-thru at Mickey D's.
Oh yeah, and
Right?
it costs less than what it does to buy a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit with.
Sure,
It's just
So if every morning you get up and you're like, I'm gonna have the sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit and coffee, it's gonna be about $6.
It is.
It's gonna be $6 whether you walk in the store or you go through the drive-through. It's gonna cost you more if you want a delivery and you use one of the delivery services, and there are multiples.
Yeah.
Okay? It's gonna cost you more. But you do not get that. You get nothing off because you changed to the cheaper delivery system for the store.
Yeah.
Okay? When you don't walk in there, they don't have to pay to heat or cool the dining area that you're sitting at. When you don't walk in there, they don't have to pay somebody to empty the trash that you leave behind. Their expenses are going down when you're driving through the drive-thru.
Yep.
And you are not being given any discounts
Yeah.
simply because your delivery method has changed. So the delivery method, when we change it, whether that's from, when that's from print to online, we do give you a discount online.
Yeah.
But the expectation has been always that we should give it all away for free just because it's online. No.
Well, then how are you going to pay your people? How are you going to make any money? I mean, come on now.
These are businesses.
Yeah. Yes. It's like, once again, yes.
We have never written up anything about what our business model is and the fact that we are a business that needs to make money. We have not done that.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of what we do.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to take this on us, but there was something I wanted to talk about, and it just dawned on me. I even forgot when we come in here. I was a couple days ago thinking about it and everything, and it's kind of funny how this all played into what we're talking about. But first, I want to say that yes, you can consume Harvey County Talk for free, but if you like Harvey County Talk and you like consuming the information that we're providing for free, subscribe to the Kansan, because that's where we get it. Okay, if there wasn't the Kansan, then we wouldn't have the majority of the content in which we have on the program. I mean, yeah, sometimes we talk about things that might not be in the Kansan. Very rarely. If you are I mean, we could just call ourselves the Kansan commentator. I mean, but we'll call it Harvey County Talk because, whatever. But still, yet, as this has developed on, and we've chosen to take this route and not just do the digital capturing of people's lives and the people in the community and issues and topics and all of these things. But I really want to talk about boycotting and boycotting. Okay. And when I say boycotting and boycotting, in today's society, I've said this before, my generation is more likely to boycott or boycott something as their political preference. Okay. So they'll even do that over going out registered in voting because they see the value in supporting companies that are in line with their political ideology versus ones that aren't. And companies are hip to this, okay? So when you're talking about boycotting or boycotting something, boycotting by definition is just choosing to pay for or be part of a business, buy their brand, buy their product because you agree with the way they conduct themselves, maybe what content they provide, how they provide the content. And I'm just going to say it. If there's a business that has just absolutely done a very, very poor job, let's say you don't like the way big box store does this or little box store does this, and you choose not to go there because you don't like how they treat their employees, then it also goes that way at a local level. If there is an organization, a company that is really just doing a substandard job, even if they say that they're locally owned, just choose not to go there, and then choose not to buy their product, and then there's always an alternative. And in this case, that's exactly why I support the Kansan, Chad. So not to go off on a tangent or anything, but we got into this, I don't know how many minutes now. And the reality is we really haven't started talking about a lot. I know we want to talk about the train station, but I learned so much by conversations with people that I just read them all. Okay. And, I didn't know there was this, that, or the other in the train station at one point in time. And then it's amazing because people had some really good ideas. I mean, there was people saying, hey, it'd be really cool to have this there. It'd be really cool to have this there. Well, you could have this, and there's so much opportunity here. And I'm sure that because of all that action, traction, and action Jackson, right, that then what happens is that put blips out to other people. They saw the majority of those comments were good. They saw the majority of people were interested. That has history there. It's one of the longest standing. I mean, I see it selling rather quickly for a good price, and then some real movement happening there, which is just another way that Newton and Harvey County is booming.
Yeah, and there are some things that have been put out there that aren't quite right. Okay, so let's talk about the current ownership.
Okay.
All right. So, because I have seen multiples out there saying that the city has some ownership here.
That's not true.
Well,
I mean, come on, Chad. That's like saying Amtrak owns it.
It's a little more confusing than that. There is a park that has a fountain in it at the intersection of 5th and Main. That's right in front of the train station. The city owns that. The train station proper is owned by a private ownership group out of Reno County.
Really?
So there you have it. Okay. And now, why is that important? It's important because a lot of the first questions that get asked is, well, what's going to happen to Amtrak?
Amtrak will still be there.
Amtrak ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where they're beholden to the owner.
So the status of the Amtrak's presence is kind of like this. They're in the middle of trying to extend the Heartland Flyer to Newton. And the next step in that process with Amtrak, and I'm not talking about at the state, I'm talking about Amtrak itself, is the evaluation of each railroad station in each city that is on that line.
I see where you're going.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the whole point of extending the Heartland Flyer to Newton is in order to make a connection with the Southwest Chief. And that train station, while it probably does need some renovations and it needs a little TLC, it checks off a lot of those boxes they're going through. Okay,
it's still really nice.
If you take any time, if you want to dig into this issue in any way, shape, or form, go back about 2 weeks or so, and there was a rail caucus meeting hosted by Senator Carolyn McGinn. Okay, and I don't care where you're at with Senator McGinn politically. Okay, I really don't. I don't care if you think she's too liberal for the Republican Party. By the way, she's not. She's a Reagan Republican. That's the deal, okay? And straight up, Ronald Reagan was the last great Republican president, period. So,
I'm not going to argue with you there, Chad.
Well, there are people who will.
Oh,
okay.
It's a political climate of today where, that was before everybody wanted government to dictate
I'm trying to not get off on a rant.
I'm sorry.
but you go back and watch that caucus meeting. And during that caucus meeting, Mark Magliari, who is the head of public relations for Amtrak, and I've met him a number of times, and I've worked with him on different projects over the years, was talking about the Wichita situation. And I'm telling you what, that's where the money has got to really get spent when we're talking about this. They do not want to relocate Newton. That's a big price tag.
Yeah.
They want to keep everything here because they've got to deal with Wichita, where, and I quote, the rail tracks have moved away from the station.
Yeah.
They're actually taking a look at whether or not they can move into a portion of the transportation museum that's downtown.
Interesting.
Got tracks rights up to it.
Yeah.
But then there's the boxes that have to be checked. Are we going to be actually able to have a ticket window, or are they going to be kiosks? And what do we want? Here's the big one. Is it going to be ADA compliable? And how much money is going to have to be spent for that to occur? And what money will get spent? AKA, will we issue Chrissy grants, which, by the way, have already been discussed for the Newton station. They were discussed about 3 years ago. The possibility of using Chrissy grants to do some renovations at the Newton station. At that time, the talk was about returning the, what do you call them?
Canopy over the top of it?
Yes, returning some of the canopies.
Yeah.
And just doing some work there, rail side work, to make sure that,
A little beautification.
yeah, and that we're where we need to be on ADA compliance.
Yeah.
And I mean, it
Makes sense. It'd be nice to see that happen.
yeah, and it needs to happen.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, Amtrak's in that building. They want to stay in that building. Okay? And that can be scary when you start talking about possible new owners. But again, take 1 second and put yourself in the role of investor.
I already got a lease. I already know I got a guaranteed lease.
I got income.
Yep. From a major corporation.
I got income, and I got income from a source that really does not want to go anywhere. I got income from a source that's been stopping there for almost 150 years, and they wouldn't mind stopping there for another 150. I've got income from a source that's looking at trying to double and maybe even quadruple their traffic
Yes.
over the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah. It's going to happen.
As an investor, and straight up, I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of days I've said, man, I wish I had about $1.5 million.
I
$2 million.
know.
Because I'm sitting there going, dude, that is guaranteed income.
Well, and then I look at it, I'm like, this is like a great, I mean, I would think it's a great investment. I mean, I'm looking at it from the ons. And like I said, even then I made the comment on there that, withstanding anything that I don't know, I'm sure upkeep on the building. I don't know how the roof is. I don't know all that stuff. But I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is, you know what? How much business can come in there and feed off of just the fact that it's location, traffic. It's downtown. It's a beautiful building. And people were even talking about, I don't want to throw anybody's name out there, but a friend of mine said, back in the day, I was up there in the top, in the attic, right? And it's like, wow, that's interesting.
And so for those folks who have an interest in seeing a restaurant return to that building,
Which would be awesome.
okay, Stan's already on it.
See, and even then, like, if you think about it, people were like
tell you
getting
how
descriptive. People were getting descriptive. They were saying it'd be nice to have this exact thing in there. It'd be nice to have this, and there was like 10 ideas about what people could have there. And the coolest thing that I really heard is in Hutchinson, you can go over to Hutch and you can eat at their airport there, right? And watch planes come in and out. And I thought, wow, that'd be really cool if Newton did the same thing. And then I thought, well, we have trains.
Yes, we do. And I can't tell you how glad I am that Stan stopped back in the office again yesterday. I just really can't. I just, and in the interest of full disclosure, Stan and I have had our differences over the course of the last 20 years. It's just a natural thing. That's what's going to happen. But I'm really glad he stopped in, because, he's just like, dude, he's just been like a kid in a candy store over this thing. And he told me exactly who he has talked to. And restaurants are on the list, okay? And, he also said to me how glad he is that I looked at him and said, that's the busiest rail station in the state of Kansas.
It is.
It is the busiest passenger rail station in the state of Kansas. There is almost the same number of people getting on and off at that station in a year than actually live in the city of Newton.
Are you serious? I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah, it is big.
That's big time.
Okay, and you got to remember that, Wichita doesn't have a station. Okay?
Everybody's got to come here.
And you got to remember that, so if you want to go east and west
all the way coast to coast, pretty much.
If you want to go east and west on Amtrak, take a look at our region and where we're going to be really pulling from. Okay? We're going to be pulling from Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We truly are. There's a stop in Oklahoma City that goes north and south, but not east and west. And if you want to get here, you got two choices when you're in Oklahoma City. You can get on a bus and ride here, and Amtrak will sell you that ticket. Okay?
All
right.
Not that fun.
Or you can drive here on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, those are your choices.
Until the future.
And they're doing those.
Yes.
They're doing those. You know, when I take the train, I meet people from all over, and I'm like, dude, you don't have a station. Well, I know. I drove to Newton.
You know,
so
it's awesome.
And the reason that's so important is this: when people talk about Leonidas, when they talk about the Harvey House, them places were open when the trains came and went.
Yeah.
Okay, and I had a great conversation just this week from a Bethel grad. Graduated well before I ever attended there, and they used to walk from Bethel down to Leonidas at 3:00 in the morning. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is that for those folks who are like, dude, it'd be great to get a restaurant back in there, you very well could get your wish.
Yeah, and we need some big bay windows there.
And the thing that I keep coming back to in my head is, okay, so the Bethel students were walking down there at 3:00 in the morning. In my era, they were going to Charlie's.
Yeah.
Charlie's ain't around anymore.
Nope.
We were also going to Drubers. Okay? And that'll never change.
Yeah.
Okay, I say we. College students are going to go where the places are open.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
If they want to get off campus, they're going to go where it's open.
Yep.
At 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So not only is there a very real possibility that you're going to get a restaurant in there, it's very real that restaurant could end up being 24 hours a day. We don't know what's going to happen with the current tenants, and there are current tenants. Those are the folks that you're like, ooh, are they going to raise the rent on them? Okay? I mean, what's going to happen with those guys? We don't know. But understand that anybody who's going to put money into this is going to figure out how to make sure there's revenue coming out of that building.
Well, and it ain't like the place is going bankrupt. People act like, oh, it must be doing bad if they're going to stop. No, usually in this situation, what they're going to do is they're going to strike while the iron's hot because it's the most attractive at this point. And I'll tell you, just another thing, back to the hutch, the planes, and all this stuff. What one man's trash is another man's treasure. And we have a lot of trains. We all know we have trains. We all get stopped by them all day long. And a lot of people, have some gruff here and there about it. And, let's put a bridge over it and everything else. But if there was a restaurant in there that had a huge bay window and you knew that you could come to Newton and it would almost be guaranteed that you would have like the front row seat to this train action because we got it, that in and of itself is a treasure to people.
There's only one thing better for rail fans.
Being on the train itself.
And that's an actual dinner train.
Oh, which I ate on the Amtrak before.
It's a thing that's been bandied about in this community for a while, but with lack of investment, and in that case you got to work with the BNSF because you got to get access to the rails.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing better is a dinner train, and there's some in the region.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the timing for the sale of the station is right, and the reason it is right is because we are closer than we have ever been to getting the Heartland Flyer here.
I believe it's going to happen.
Well,
I can't say it is because don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
Correct, and I hate to speak ill on this program, but I've been around Amtrak for a lot of years, and straight up, there are people in Amtrak I just flat out do not trust. Okay, so until the train actually shows up, I am always going to have a little bit of skepticism on it.
Yeah.
Always. Okay? And I name drop a lot lately. Evan Stair is who taught me that. And he's a rail advocate from Oklahoma who's been working on the Heartland Flyer for who knows how long. I mean, he predates everybody that's on this. Everybody. And he's the one that taught me, always keep a bit of skepticism. He's still working. And he's the guy that says things like, we're as close as we've ever been, but until you see a train, it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
And, he and I both have, the best way to put it, we have gone to war with Amtrak, okay? Because Amtrak has more than once threatened to yank the national network, okay? And that is what has fueled the Southwest Chief. It's why it exists, is that national network and the long distance trains.
Yeah. Which we're going to see, and this is an interesting thing. Trends speak for themselves. And with a younger generation, I'll call it the millennial and below, we're into trains and planes, right? We're not into...
Here's what you're into.
Public transportation for the most part, really.
And you're into a form of transportation where your time while you are in transit is not wasted.
Yeah.
You are into transportation that is in a mode, and this is the train to a T, where you can sit down with your laptop and work.
The whole time you're there. For me, a trip on Amtrak is an opportunity to memorize the lines of a play. Yeah.
It's, the day can start with me checking in on my email and going through things and actually doing some work. When I travel by car, I can't do any of that. I flat out can't. I got to drive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or if you're riding co-pilot, you're there trying to co-pilot. You're not worried about blowing down the rails at 90 miles an hour. That's the deal.
So I really believe that the sale of the train station is a good thing. And I do believe with all my heart that Amtrak is still going to be there after that sale is complete.
Oh yeah.
And that and in part because I know the kind of person that Stan is talking to, and that he wants to have that building. He's pretty clear. He doesn't want somebody that's going to come in and destroy everything.
Yeah.
He wants somebody to take this thing to the next steps. Right? And to his credit, he's got a bunch of investment in downtown. He and some partners bought a lot of buildings about 15 years ago.
Very cool.
Okay? So he has an interest in making sure that this thing remains an Amtrak station. He has an interest in making sure that whoever gets it is going to take it to the next level and do something that's going to be good for the entirety of downtown.
And I'll just say this. We rested on this for a minute, Chad. And if we don't, we'll do the whole program. But speaking of, trains, railers, we are the railers here in Newton. How about that Lindley Hall?
They're going to do the opening this afternoon. I can't wait. It's gorgeous. I'm just going to say it. It's gorgeous. Everybody that worked on that project has expressed a lot of pride, and they should be.
Yeah.
And they should.
I'm gonna show up in suit and tie for that one.
So, I'll do that.
I really am. I've got something else, but I'm gonna show up in suit and tie, Chad.
But yes, I'm gonna be there. They're gonna celebrate with the students this afternoon, and then the rest of us are gonna be showing up around 4. And yeah. And again, I mean, I know it was a very difficult conversation and a difficult decision, but I really, really believe that the correct decision was made.
Yeah.
And you got folks who are like, well, I don't know if we needed to invest that kind of money. Well, we're gonna get 50 years out of this.
50 years.
Okay, we're gonna get 50 years out of this.
When we talk about people complain about the new library being built and why couldn't we do the old library and all this type of stuff, it's like, look, we just took one of the most historic locations in our community and we were able to give it another 50-year life. I mean, there's some wins and you can do that, and there's some times where you can't. And I think in both instances we were on point, which brings it all back around to government. and the ability for our elected officials to make the best informed decisions they have. And, I got to say, send a shout out to Fred Van Rankin, superintendent, who just got his contract extended for 2 years. Fred, or Mr. Van Rankin, however would be the most due respect for you. You tell me to call you by your first name every time I see you and shake my hand. But the truth is we have a rock star right now as our superintendent. And there are some things that are going on that are making the news that a lot of people are kind of having some issues with, Chad. And one of those things that I've heard a lot of people talk about is this situation with the Walton School building. And I don't want to go over this again. We keep rehashing it, but it's a long process, so it keeps coming up on our blip and everything else. But can you help me understand a little bit about what's going on? Because I know they just had a meeting.
Sure.
And there's, I get it, government, right? And I understand, but even then, I still don't understand because, well, it's like every time you move forward, there's so many players. You got the city of Walton, the location of Walton, then you got the school system, and then you got the state of Kansas, and then you've got laws and legislation and all this. And it's not long before all this spaghetti bowl is just that. And you can't really tell the difference between any of it. It all just looks the same. And if you don't have a real grounded understanding, or somebody can't articulate it in a way that allows for appropriate communication to happen, then it becomes missed on people, and it's too much, and it just becomes problematic. So just help me, even me, understand what the heck is going on right now. It's not just this simple, we're not going to use the building anymore, we need to sell it, and then we sell it. It's just not that simple.
Of course not.
Well, it should be, right?
Well, no.
I'm sorry.
Because there's a whole host of questions that have to be answered.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just a gazillion questions that have to be answered. And I guess I'll start with right now where I feel like the Board of Education has missed the mark. Okay?
You're going to be critical.
Yeah. Honestly, I was very furious on Monday because I feel like the board has gotten distracted and missed the mark on what needs to be done first. Okay? I feel like the board passed 3 separate motions on Monday, and there needed to be a 4th.
Okay.
So here's what they decided on Monday. They decided that a park, or what is considered a park, and the ownership is all buzzed over, right? It's all fuzzy. It's just nuts. But there's a park there, and I believe, I have not actually pulled out any old maps to double check this, but I believe we're talking about an area where at least a portion of the old high school sat. Now we're talking pre-1964, because that school went away in 64.
That's a long time ago for some of you younger folks.
It's a long time ago for me.
I wasn't even thought of.
So, but there's a park there, and there's a memorial to the 1964 high school there, and all this stuff. They decided that needed to be returned to the city of Walton. Rightfully so. Okay? Let me be blunt. Rightfully so. Okay? If Walton wants it and they want to take care of it, they should have it. Period. The school district should have never been involved on that property, in my opinion. But it is. And it shows as a part of the 7.5 acres of the campus of the Walton School in the county GIS system.
Okay.
All right. So the board authorized Fred to go talk to the mayor and say, if you want this, would you please take it? Good for you guys. Okay. That needs to be cleaned up. But because of what it is showing in the GIS and some of the research that we're now going to have to do on the deeds, things are going to get messy. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And the reason it's going to get messy is our state legislature, who screwed this whole thing up from the very beginning.
Oh, now critical.
You better believe it. It's not the only thing I'm frustrated with about our state legislature right now either. as of today.
We all have an opinion.
Okay, so they made that decision. They also made a decision that they would get somebody, and then, it's kind of this nebulous who knows who, to appraise the property with the building on it and figure out what the actual value is. And for any and all people who will turn around, pull up the county GIS and say, well, the value is $1.27 million. No, it's not, because that particular value that you're citing, that is the county assessment. That is not a resale value.
Yeah.
And it includes the park as a part of it. So we just changed the formula. We need an appraisal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once that's done, they authorized Fred to go to the community of Walton, aka the mayor, and say, okay, how do we facilitate the possibility of you guys taking ownership? It's right there that I am beyond frustrated. That is the cart before the horse. Period. It's too early for that conversation.
Well, yeah,
and the reason it is too early for that conversation is here. Not only do we still have a whole bunch of unanswered questions when it comes to the Board of Education, we have the unanswered question when it comes to Senate Bill 113.
Which is all up in that business.
Yeah. And we've got a deadline that we've got to observe here, folks. Straight up, if the school board, and this is the missing motion, and the school district does not notice the legislature of the intent to dispose of this building prior to April 6th, and even then, I think it might be a little late.
Yeah.
Because of all of the timelines that SB 113 puts out there, we're going to have to wait till next year.
Okay, and so then that becomes like, I can see how problematic that will be, because the worst thing that can happen to a building is that it remain vacant for over a year.
Well, it's not totally vacant right now.
Well, but it's not in the type of use that it's been used in.
Correct. But, the bottom line is that any member of the board who makes the statement, I'm tired of this dragging on, guess what? Because of SB 113, it's going to continue to drag on.
Yeah.
And that's not your control.
Yeah.
The state legislature exerted this control. They took it.
Okay, so I have a question. Is there a way, of course, I'm sure there is, and I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to put words in Chad's mouth. Does Chad think it's time for there to be the possibility that what you're saying is considered, which is not too late, because there's no reason why they can't do an emergency meeting or put it on the agenda to cover the following week or something, right? That we might not know that's there.
I'll say to you what I said to a member of this Board of Education within the last 48 hours. If I were sitting on this board, I would have made a motion myself on Monday night to notice the legislature.
Okay.
Because SB 113 discusses the intent to dispose. If we're going to be talking to real estate agents, if we're going to be talking to appraisers, we actually have an intent to dispose of this property.
I got you. So instead, I get you now.
We've already said we want to get this park off our books.
Yes.
We have an intent. So let's notice.
Yes. And then we can do all this.
Let's get the clock ticking. Because can we be logical for 1 minute? SB 113 says that if the legislature believes there is a reason for the legislature to purchase the building, they have 45 days in order to pass a concurrent resolution to do that very thing. It also states that when they pass that concurrent resolution, that the State Department that will be taking ownership of the building must be named. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate talking in total hypotheticals, but let's give you one. If the Extension Council decides they want that building, they have to go through the legislature to make that happen, and they have to be named. If the State Department of Education, which is an actual state department, wants that building for any reason, they have to be announced that that's who is going to take it. Now I'm going to ask you, we're talking about Walton, Kansas. Can you think of a state department that would really truly have an interest in having a building in Walton, Kansas?
I don't want to add insult to injury, but no.
I mean, do you think the Kansas Highway Patrol wants it as a training facility?
I'm not going to add insult to injury, but probably no.
Well, you're not adding insult to injury. What you're doing is adding some encouragement.
Well,
because the fact of the matter is, it's very unlikely that anybody is going to take that concurrent resolution action.
yeah.
But that concurrent resolution action and that clock and that window has to be served. So once we've served it, we have then opened it up so that we can go talk to the mayor and say, okay, what are you willing to, what are we willing to negotiate?
I know what we could do with it, Chad. I got an idea. Let's move some of our county building over there.
That's not a state department.
Well, they could buy it, you know. They doing all this stuff.
That's not a state department.
You know, I'm sure there's one commissioner that thinks that needs to happen.
So, you know, and just to be clear, I'm super cool with that, with ownership of that building being given to the city of Walton.
Why not?
Right?
Why not? It could be a really nice activity center for them.
There's a lot of things they could do with it.
Yes.
Okay? And that's really who needs to own this.
But does the city of Walton have the ability to pay for it to be kept up? Because right now it doesn't look like they're getting any more revenue anytime soon.
That's their decision. Straight up. That's their decision.
But you're saying if they post it and then Walton comes along and says, hey, we want to try to be able to do this, that it's very possible that it could be utilized in a productive way still locally in the community rather than it being bought out. Because I don't see, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, MPA speaking here, there is a point in time in which it's just better to build new. Speaking of the public library, which I wanted to get into that, but we're just not going to be able to get into that this week.
And that's fine.
And we'll do that. We'll catch that next week because we'll be, you know, it's a couple more weeks and they're going to have their grand opening. We're pretty much right now, the library's just pretty much shut down for moving. So I guess that's the breaking news.
I look through the windows. They've already got books on the shelves.
I love it. It's
not
beautiful.
all of them.
I'd have to say at one point in time, I was public about the fact that, look, you know, libraries of the past are obsolete. And then I was convinced rather quickly at some of the ideas that they were going to have. And this is a library for the future. So I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. You just can't beat it. It's going to be a library that serves the current purpose, but it's also going to be a library that serves so many more purposes now than it ever did before.
Let me tell you, I can't wait to check out a telescope to take on a camping trip.
Well, when they have, you can actually do that?
When the new library opens, you will be able to do that.
Seriously. I mean, when they talked about having a creative space, I guess I'm behind a little bit on this.
And they're not going nearly as far with the creative spaces as they wanted to or considered, and part of that is that
finances.
And they talked to some other libraries out there that had done some of those things, and they did not really get the support that they expected. So there are things that I would love to see happen that probably aren't, but you know what? I'm just straight, man. I can't wait to check out a telescope and go camping with the boys out at East Lake or West Lake.
See, and that's just one of many things. I mean, it's a beautiful building. You drive by it.
Yep.
You know, I've even heard people in the past, which maybe not the best location, you know, or maybe it is, or whatever the case may be. But there's so much going on right there that we talk about train traffic, right? Well, what about all during the harvest when people are able to see all of that stuff going on? I mean, that's an educational experience. That brings rural happenings and the production of that and the process of that straight home. And I can see eyes looking out the window and watching these trucks come in and out and grain and everything else, and that just provides more of, you know, that's a silver lining to a gray cloud. But
when you talk about, you know, that they put it in Military Park and people wondering if that's really the right place for it,
it's where we put our other library. It obviously worked for a while.
Go back and look at what some of the other locations that were floated around were. And I'm going to tell you point blank, of the locations that we were given as possibilities. And I said it during those meetings. I was very vocal. I said, the place is Military Park.
Yeah.
It has the best pedestrian infrastructure out of any of these places that you're putting it. Mm-hmm. And I will not accept some of the boilerplate crap that came out during the debate about where to put a YMCA. I will not accept that. I will not. And that boilerplate crap was this. You won't find a place where every kid in Newton can walk to it. You're right. That's not an excuse for putting it someplace where no kid can.
Yeah, and then you think about where you put it. I mean, you put it in a very central location.
I mean, I am quoting myself. And I said those words over and over and over and over again. And I kept making the point that if you really wanted to put it someplace that had great pedestrian infrastructure, there's not a single property here that qualifies. But the best, the absolute best, is Military Park. Okay?
Absolutely.
Personally, I wanted them to consider going further down 6th Street or 5th Street, take your pick, or even up just north of 12th Street where they could have put that campus right on the Sand Creek Trail.
Yeah, that's where I mean that's right next to my house, so I could have just walked to the library across the creek.
But again, because we absolutely, with facilities like this one, pedestrian infrastructure, aka my kid riding their bike, your kid riding their bike.
Yeah.
Where's the best place for them to actually get to it?
Right where it's at. I mean, I got to say, right where it's at. And then when we speak of the bike path, I am 100% fan of the bike path. I want to see the bike path continue to do some things. I'm starting to make some phone calls about what little things we can do along the bike path, like maybe some just equipment, exercise equipment maybe, or maybe some areas where kids can, do hopscotch while they're going, just to make it more friendly.
How about a true trailhead up there between McDonald's and Taco Bell?
Take it. I use that. I mean, it's been nice, and everybody who knows me has probably seen me out on the daily when it's nice pushing a stroller.
Yeah,
because
I'm talking about a true trailhead. I mean, because what's there now is just I don't know. It's sand.
Yeah, but
there's a sand road there with this kind of not terribly defined cul-de-sac, and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
But how about a real one?
Yeah.
That'd
be cool.
There are things that can be done.
Yeah.
But I'd trade all of that. I would trade all of that for an actual trail between North Newton and Heston.
That's next.
Old
That's
81.
next. That's next. Because once again, it goes back to, people, when they're looking at a place to move, first off, it's the houses. Then it's the child care, which I was going to cover that, but we'll cover that next week. This new facility that's getting ready to open, that's here to meet a need here in Newton. Been there. Great place. Great people. I'm enlisting my child there 2 days a week. They offer part-time, and I think they're almost filled up. I was going to expound on. So my kid was one of the last 2 spots. So
I mean, straight up, you can't open up a child care facility in this community and not be full within a week or two.
Yeah. Next is schools, and then is amenities. That's what people look at. And I'm telling you, as you start to put the microscope on Newton and what exactly is here, we are firing on all cylinders, Chad. We really are. And to tell you the truth, I'm going to do it in love, and I'm going to do it in grace, but everybody knows that I will get out there and I will go toe-to-toe with people on social media, and I am sick and tired of ignorance, obstinate ignorance, with people that are not informed, that want to try to badmouth my community when we have so many wins, so many times, so many ways over the last 5 years. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous. If you're somebody that wants to come on and wants to get petty, and you want to sit there and talk about, well, the library location's not the best, or maybe we should have done something with this other library, I don't make the big bucks, bro, but I'll tell you this. I am sitting here watching, and I can be critical, okay? But I also know, man, there's so much good going on, Chad. Why bust a bubble with some non-existent critical thing that we got to say about whatever? I mean, if you dig into the weeds on any of it, the city funding for the library, how they got it, we didn't go into more debt. We just took, and when we paid stuff off, we used that same money, the bike path, the projection to try to connect
and when
the
you
two.
talk about
keep going.
You want to talk about the library? Let's talk about how much of the funding came from private sources.
Wow. And I got to send a shout out to the library board. I tried to get somebody on here, but the timing didn't work out. So maybe we can do that once this new library is done, and we can talk about all the awesome things that it has, and then we can also talk about how we got here. Because if you're looking for anybody to be able to raise you some money for an initiative, I'd go to the library board and I'd try to recruit them. So I got to send a shout out to, I think it's Angela Becker, right?
and Adrian.
I mean, and they got people on board.
Monsters. And they set the tone for some other things when they did that. Yeah. And we've got a new park out on Southwest 14th.
Yes.
Not a dime spent out of the city general fund.
Yeah. And that's another win that we didn't even talk about. We talked about it in the past, but we didn't mark that down on our list. Right. We couldn't get through a program to say all the cool things that are happening.
We're going to get about a $750,000 playground over at Slate Creek, and not a single dime is going to be spent by the school district to make that happen.
Another win. Awesome people. That's somebody else I want to have come on, and I want to hear about it when it gets done. And maybe that's what we're waiting on, is for it to get done, to be able to see it, to be able to experience it.
They're about this far away from the funding, and they are so close, they've already started ordering the parts.
It's insane. Okay, I'm going to give you the last word, but I talked to somebody, Zach McCatton. He came out here on the program. He talked to me and said, hey, Lance, I want you to come out here to the Wichita Area Builders Association Convention. It's at Century 2. We talked a lot about Choose Newton. We talked about all the things that are going on. And you know what? I just got to say this. I got to read it so I don't get it wrong. March 7th through 10th, there is Wichita Area Builders Association Convention. It's at Century 2 in Wichita. If you go there, you're not going to have to look very long before you find Choose Newton. This year, it's Choose Newton and the city or the school districts. They're partnering together. So there's a real concerted effort by these individuals to be able to sell Newton to the greater community. And I would suggest going. If you don't know what's going on in Newton, and you don't know what's really happening at our school or whatever, and you might just be wanting to have kind of a condensed version of it or be able to see what's happening, then you can go there from Thursday noon to 6, which is today, Friday through Saturday 10 to 7, and on Sunday 10 to 5. There is free parking. There's shuttle bus service from the parking area on Sycamore Street, just west of the Wichita Windsurge Stadium. There is tickets, but the kids 12 and under are free. 12 and older with a school ID is $7. It's like $9 and $12 for adults. So it's not expensive. Get in there, look at it, see what there is in the Wichita area, and then make sure and stop in and see. I'm assuming Zach McCatton and I'm assuming Carly Stavola are there, or at least some representative, because they can't be there all day long. So you're going to get in there and you're going to see the wins, let them talk to you. Heck, act like you're not from Newton, because they might not know that you're from Newton, and just see what they got to say and see what other people think about your community, because I think you'd be surprised. So we're coming up towards the end. If you hear the rain, sorry everybody. It is a rainy day. It even hailed a little bit this morning. Yeah, and it's awesome. But Chad, you get the last word, Chad. So what do you got for everybody?
We got a presidential preference primary going on right now.
Oh, you're going to go there.
Yep. Only you can decide if it is now actually worth your time to vote. I mean, straight up. Only you can decide if it is now worth your time to vote, with the exodus of pretty much all of the candidates that aren't named Biden or Trump. However, if you do decide to vote, please be nice to those poll workers that are in there. This isn't them. It's not them that created this. If you think this is a waste of time and money, you need to talk to our state legislature, because they're the ones who created it. So, Rick and his crew are awesome. They've always been awesome.
Always.
And, if for no other reason, just so Don doesn't get overly bored in that polling room, go in, vote, and just be nice and say hi.
I love you, Chad. I love you, man. I might actually do that myself, so just because I like to see them people. But, well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening this week of Harvey County Talk. It's me and Chad, like always. Have a great week, everybody.